What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Plugin Police. I'm your host, Weaver Beats, and today we'll be checking out Ramzoid's 808 Cooker plugin. It's a sampler focused around 808s, and it promises to make your 808s 10,000% better. We'll see if it really does that. Obviously, an experienced producer could do this with a sampler and their own effects, but I'm guessing what's really good about this should be the workflow. This plugin costs $40, and the main competitor I could think of is Sublab, which also costs $40. So I'm going to be mentioning it a little bit in this review as a comparison. Alright, so this is what 808 Cooker looks like. As you can see, you choose the samples here. There's different types of groups of samples here, including a drag and drop section. You can change the envelope here as well as a few other settings: saturation, Zoid, glide. There's EQ, and then you can change the distortion here and the number of bands here. As you can see though, pretty simple, not the most complex plugin in the world, but it has a nice workflow for sure. Here are 5 demo beats I made with 808 Cooker. Obviously, I only used it on the 808s. Okay, so let's start off with the positives. This plugin is extremely fast. I'm not really just talking about the speed, more so the workflow. It's probably one of the quickest ways you can get down 808s in my opinion. There are preset 808s ready to go, and they pretty much all sound pretty great to begin with, but you could also process them within the software or outside of it. You can add wave shaping, distortion, and saturation, which help your 808s hit harder as well as be audible on phone speakers and other shitty speakers. Next, there's also quite a bit of 808 samples, as many if not more presets than there are in Sublab by default. They're organized by type, which makes it really quick to find what you're looking for. There's also a few 808s in here that are questionable in quality in my opinion though, but almost all of them are top notch. One issue I did find with this plugin though is almost all the 808 samples are incredibly short. Not short enough that they're not usable, but short enough that you won't really be able to do too many long 808s or too many glides. There's a few sustained samples, but there's only a few. Now you can use your own samples in there and drag and drop them in there, but that kind of ruins the workflow in my opinion, or at least the speed of the workflow. And it doesn't matter how much you turn up the decay, sustain, release, there's no algorithm within it that helps sustain a shorter 808. But like I said, this becomes a big problem when you want to do glides, especially really long ones. I will say this, there are a few 808s in here that seem more interesting than what you can do with Sublab, probably because they were made already, whereas in Sublab you kind of create the sound yourself. I also think the multi-band wave shaping distortion helps you get quite a bit more variety than you already get with the basic samples in here, or your own samples. You can get quite a few different timbres with this in my opinion. It's nice that there's a stereo widening feature. One thing I did notice though is the lows of it are not in mono when it does this, so that may be one thing they want to consider fixing. It's not really a big deal though, because it doesn't widen the lows like completely. I just noticed it's not mono. Like when I low pass it to 100 hertz, it's a little stereo. All right, now we're gonna talk about the bad things about this. So while you can import your own samples, one problem I did find is that you cannot save them in your own library in here. Or if you do, it doesn't show you how to do it in the program. But it would be really nice if I could import a sample in here and then save it into my own user library and then like reopen it later, you know, maybe even like with some processing and then resample it back in. The greatest value to me of this plugin would be to quickly throw together 808s. It really has a nice workflow, like I said, and I think it should lean into that idea a bit more by making it easy to save presets. It also seems to lack a legato/retrigger switch, which would be very useful when doing glides, especially long glides. Like I said, we're having problems here with sustain. And one feature that I noticed Sublab has that this doesn't is you can quantize the timing of the glide, which is kind of nice. Not really a big deal though, but it's just nice. It saves time. Now I couldn't figure out exactly what the Zoid knob did, At first I thought it was like a slight high pass, but then I realized when looking at the stereo imager, it kind of brings it closer for some reason. I don't know, it's not super audible what it does to it, but I don't know, if anyone ever figures out what the Zoid knob does, let me know. I couldn't really figure it out. Maybe chorus or something, I really don't know. One reason Sublab can do infinite sustain is because it uses waveforms for the 808 portion of it, but because of that it also has more limited timbres. Like I said, Sublab costs the same price and has quite a bit more features. One reason to use this one over Sublab though is just the workflow. I find Sublab is a lot more overwhelming. I can imagine for a beginner, it'd be much more overwhelming to deal with Sublab than it is to deal with this. Now, the complexity of Sublab and the simplicity of this could be seen as a pro or con depending on how you want to look at it, or your skill level. Something small that I thought of is that it would be nice if it had automatic pitch detection. When you drag in a sample, you have to put in the pitch of the sample yourself. Thankfully, almost all samples are already tuned to C, and C is a default in here, so 99% of the time it's not really an issue, and most people label the key of their sample anyways, unless you're a sociopath. But it would definitely be more forward thinking to have this plugin detect the pitch if possible. Alright, now the conclusion. Is this the best 808 plugin on the market? No. Is it adequate and also good for beginners? Yes. You can definitely get good sounds out of 808 Cooker or Sublab. Sublab has features for basically everything, while 808 Cooker is a bit shorter on features and on release times. So if you don't mind mostly having short 808s or having to use your own sustained samples, this is probably a really good plugin for you. Now, one feature that 808 Cooker has over Sublab though, that I haven't talked about too much yet, is the multiband wave shaper. You can definitely extend the amount of tones and the variety of timbres that you can get out of it with that. Sublab only has single band distortion, but you can control the levels of the harmonics, which is sort of similar, but not really at all. I'm definitely pleased with my 808s that I get out of either of these plugins, but I do find that 808 Cooker does have some weaknesses and they could address it if they wanted to. It's pretty hard for me to settle on a rating for this plugin, but I'm thinking 6.5 out of 10. If they added the ability to save samples in the library, as well as the legato / retrigger, as well as more sustained 808s, I think this could easily be a 7.5 out of 10. If not higher. The other issues I had with it are not really that big of a deal, but those three for me, I wouldn't say they're a deal breaker, but they definitely brought it down quite a bit for me. I will definitely still be using this plugin, but it has like more of a limited use case for me. I would have to be wanting to use short 808s and also not really be trying to do too many glides, which actually kind of fits my workflow already to begin with. If you're trying to do like drill basses, for instance, like this is probably not the best plugin unless you want to use your own sustained 808s. And in that case, I would definitely reach for Sublab. A few things I want to add. There's no trial. I hope this review did not upset you, Ramzoid. I'm actually a big fan of your work. I do think this plugin could use a little work though also. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to throw it a like. Have you guys tried Sublab or 808 Cooker? Let me know down in the comments. I'm your host, Weaver Beats. Make sure to check out my affiliate links, or if you want to support the channel, or my Patreon if you want to support the channel. I upload exclusive and early content on there. I'll probably upload this early on there even. That's it, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, it's next time, and I'm leaving.
Band Incorporated.